Thank you so much for having me today. You're a really crackerjack group of veterans, and I appreciate you having me. I mean, I've never been met with such warmth anywhere in my life, so Greensboro is my new home, you know. And I'm hoping Kim can help me find a house. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Oh, my name's Pacifica Sauer. I'm going to try not to read this because I was told when I wrote it that I didn't put anything personal in it. This is an entirely personal thing for me to talk about women veterans. This is one of my favorite topics. Women veterans are special to me because we're all volunteers. We have been part of the military since the military began. If you really want to get down to it, we have forgotten our history and we've been left out of history, but we've always been there. We've always been volunteers, and whenever we ask to help, we always step up. And that's one of the things I've always heard from the women that I've talked to is they felt it was an essential thing for them to do, and they were proud to do it, and they served their time, and they did what they had to do, and they went home to their families and became wives and mothers and educators and every other label you can think of, and the veteran status just kind of went to the back burner. So if you're here today and you identify as a veteran, that's a tremendous step that a lot of us don't take, and I applaud you. Thank you so much. So it's an unexpected honor to be here today. I had no idea when I made the documentary that it would even leave Houston, that it would get out of Texas. It's been in San Francisco, San Diego, Washington State, Florida, in Canada, and now I'm in North Carolina speaking about it. Is that unbelievable or not? So I've been in television since 2006. I've worked on several entertainment shows. Miss Universe is one of them. I did a few years of Miss Universe. Worked on some true crime and wanted to get out of the rigmarole of traveling everywhere and working in television. It's very hard on your body. It's hard on your mind. It's hard on your life. And I decided it was time to settle down, so I took a friend's advice and moved to Texas, and they're like, just go to Houston, do not go to Dallas, because Dallas is full of wannabes, so I ended up in Houston. I know, right? Yeah. In 2011, I came to Houston, and it was an unexpected change for me. I didn't care about being a veteran. It wasn't on my resume. I thought it was a hindrance to getting a job. I didn't think it was valuable. Especially being in the media. Everyone in the media thinks that veterans are broken and that we're just a bunch of problems. If you're a woman veteran, you're too direct. They don't like the way you talk. They don't like how you look for standard operating procedure. They don't. They don't like the way you stand. They don't like the way you walk. There's a litany of things. When you get out, you can't really drop that. It becomes part of the fabric of who you are. And with men, it's different. They show who they are more. And women, like I said, when we get out, we go to being mothers, and we go back to our families, and we go back to the important things of keeping our lives together and the people around us safe. And we put the veteran thing in the back. And what we've suffered through no fault of our own is, in our minority, we are the most visible service member and the most invisible veteran. And that's what I've come to change, I guess. It wasn't really a task I took up on purpose. It was actually, it was a happy mistake, and I'm happy to share that experience, this part of my veteran story with you today. Like Beth Ann said, I've been in TV for quite a while, and I'm now a production editor for a CBS affiliate in a major market. But for a long time, I didn't even tell anybody I was a veteran, and I mentioned that before. When they found out I was a veteran, it was such a risk to open my mouth and have the courage to say, I am a veteran. I served in the Navy, 8 years, 7 months, and 23 days. I've been overseas. I've seen things that a lot of people don't ever get to see by the time they're 50, and I did a lot of these things before I was 21. And when you come out, what people don't understand is that women, for a long time, our numbers, even in the military, were limited. There weren't that many of us. In the beginning, I think it was like 2% of the military was women. So when you get out, there's almost no one. There's no one to lean on. A lot of the women that you meet in civilian service don't know what it's like to be in the military or how you have to compete for respect and competency. Even if you are competent, to be seen as competent, you have to go way above and beyond everyone else. And to be seen as a valuable member of the team and not an object is a tremendous obstacle many of us face when we get in, especially if you're forward deployed as an enlisted person. But what I've learned from this experience is that I am a veteran. And until recently, even though I never talked about it, I have every reason to be proud of my service and that my service mattered. So I have a lot of reasons to care about veterans, and my family's chock full of veterans. My grandfather was a veteran, my uncle's a veteran, my dad's a veteran, my brother's a veteran, my cousins are veterans. So, but no fault to their own, they're all men. Right? And it is the military, so you come to expect that, right? I mean, it's just women veterans are few and far between. And like I said, that's no fault of our own. We're just the most visible service member and the most invisible veteran. But when I left the military, I had no direction. I had no identity. I had no idea what I was supposed to do, what I was supposed to be. No one was telling me what to wear anymore, where to be, how to be, or what to say. I mean, there was none of this. There was no standard operating procedure for civilian life at all. And it was an already turbulent time in my life. I was an emancipated minor when I joined the Navy, so I was already young. I was barely 17. I turned 18 in A school and turned 19 on my first ship. So it was already a rough, turbulent time in my life emotionally because of what I survived in the military. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know where to be. I didn't have any support. It was just me. And I thought that I was doing well because I was independent and I was getting things done. And I thought I was getting things done. Really and truly, I was just... I know when you get out of the military, I think everyone feels that way. You kind of lose a part of yourself and you've got to put that away and become this other person to make your life work, because hoorah, hooah, yut does not work. Right. Like, in the real world, it just doesn't, and they don't even know what that means. They're like, what? I mean, after a while, I was an electrician's mate in the Navy. I thought I was a good engineer. You know, I worked in engineering. I worked with steam plants. I went to nuke school, so I knew a little bit about nuclear power plants, and I had made E5, so I had a little bit of, really most of the responsibility, because you figure E6 is a leadership position and chiefs drink coffee, I think. I'm playing. It's all jokes aside, but I figured something was terribly wrong with me when things didn't work out, because that's kind of what I thought. They were like, oh, don't worry, when you get out, it'll be so easy for you. You'll find a job, you'll do whatever, don't worry, you're taken care of. And that was so far from the truth. I needed something to do. I needed a job. I thought that I would rely on the skills I'd learned in the Navy. No. They had me cleaning boilers and installing HVAC systems. And I did make money and all that, but I was not happy. That is not what I wanted to do. But I felt stuck. It was horrible. I stumbled through jobs. I stumbled through cities, addresses, states. I think I lived in 6 states, had 20 addresses, and I've had 11 jobs since I got out. And I had no idea that is almost normal for a lot of us. And it's a shame. And it was painful to feel I didn't fit in anywhere. Very painful. And after a while, I figured something was wrong with me. I was too direct. It was too whatever it was. And when I think about this, we've all seen Shawshank Redemption, I think, right? Morgan Freeman says, institutionalized. Well, that's exactly what you are when you get out. And it's a whole different way of thinking. It took me well into my late 20s to decide what I wanted to do with my life, and I totally changed direction. I went into the arts, and I studied media arts, animation. I graduated art school when I was 30. Which was, I was an old lady compared to everyone there. But after I got into animation and later on I started editing to pay the bills. That's after I lived in LA for a while and just it was such a heartbreaking experience for me trying to find a place to fit in. When I finally moved to Houston, I figured, all right, this is it. I might as well be honest with myself and honest with these people now. I've got nothing to lose. And I'm so happy I took that risk because it's absolutely paid off for me. Everything in my industry is very competitive, so it's all about credits and affiliations. Television crews are limited in number and budgets are a thing. It's technical, it's an art, and it's very demanding of your time and life. And there are a sea of applicants with credits like mine. So when I put in for the job at KHOU in Houston, I gave them my resume, and when I went in for the interview, the gentleman who was interviewing me asked me if there was anything about me that wasn't on my resume. And nervously, I looked at the gentleman who had brought me in there, and then I looked at this other gentleman, and I took a deep breath, and I said, you know what, I served in the Navy, and I've been to sea. And you know what, his gaze didn't falter, and he had the biggest smile on his face. And we talked about the Navy for about 20 minutes after that. For whatever reason, people are fascinated by the Navy. Whew. And I'm not sure what I expected, but I did get the job, but that's not the point. Identifying myself as a veteran was one of the first steps that would become an outlet for connection, opportunity, and healing for me personally. And this is just the beginning. This is the very first step of actually admitting parts of my identity that I had foolishly discarded for all intents and purposes. Years later, because I'm a veteran, I got assigned a project called Operation Appreciation, and it was a series of short vignettes about veterans and their transition into civilian life. And in Houston, we have a collection of VSOs called Combined Arms, and it's one place you go and they've got hundreds of VSOs under this one umbrella. So I went to Combined Arms in Houston and started meeting veterans. It was so successful, Operation Appreciation, the first year, that they let me do 2 more years of veteran vignettes. And I interviewed about 40 or 50 veterans at the time, men and women. They all had different stories of perseverance and faith. A lot of them had overcome impossible barriers and obstacles in their lives, and some had endured terrible heartbreak and heartache. And these people could actually talk about it. That was fascinating to me, since I myself had not been able to talk about my service 8 years, 10 years later. I inevitably made friends with a lot of these people. And that's when my own personal journey that I call the Invisible Project began. And there was a lot going on in Texas at the time, like Beth Ann said. It was Hurricane Harvey had decimated us in 2017. I don't know if you saw the pictures on the news, but the whole place was underwater. The whole place was under. I had fish jumping in my front yard where my tree was. Snakes, fire ants, anything. Like, this water had everything in it. It was truly incredible. the Texas legislature in Austin was also hearing testimonies to make the 12th of June Women's Veterans Day in Texas, which is a day we use to commemorate, celebrate, and educate people on the issues that women veterans face daily. And we've been celebrating that now for 5 years. And of course, veterans healthcare is always in the news. But getting together with the group in Houston to do Women Veterans Day was the first time since boot camp that I had been in a room full of women that were military women. I mean, I think there were 80 or 90 of us. That's a company, and it's a division in the Navy. It was incredible. And when I started talking to people and connecting with people, I didn't realize how much I missed my people, how much I had missed by throwing this part away, this veteran label, this what I thought was easy. I missed this. I missed it. And so now I have this amazing network of veteran professionals, sisters and brothers I never knew I had. And they became family. And they took me in instantly. And I was one of them. And for the first time, I felt like I fit somewhere. So I had no intention of ever making a documentary. And I know that I can stand up here as a television professional and you're like, how do you mean you didn't intentionally go out and make a documentary? No, I didn't. So one day, we lost our station in Hurricane Harvey. We flooded out. And they moved us to PBS for a year and a half. And we rented a studio space in PBS. Well, one day I'm milling around PBS and my veteran friend, she's an Army veteran, Valerie James, called me up on the telephone. And she said, Pacifica. And I was like, good God. I go, I wonder what she wants now. And she said, I have the most amazing thing to tell you. And I was like, what? And she says, I got a leg for Kendra. Kendra stepped on an IED in Afghanistan in 2010. She has 4 inches of femur. She's an above-the-knee amputee. She lost her left leg. Bladder problems, a whole bunch of other things no one ever hears about. You just know that they lost their leg. No, she lost so much more. She was a recovering painkiller, heroin addict. I mean, just, like I said, a litany of, just a laundry list of problems that she is enduring because of her service. And my friend Valerie, who was working at Mental Health America Greater Houston at the time, managed to get Martin Bionics, a very lucrative prosthetic leg company, to gift her this socket for her left leg. And she wanted to give it to her on TV. She goes, I want to put it on the news. And I was like, Valerie, you need more than a minute, sister, to tell this story. So I called up Deborah, who's our morning show host, and I said, Deborah, my friend Valerie wants to give my friend Kendra a leg as a surprise, and we would love to set it up on your show. And Deborah pretty much gave Kendra and Valerie the entire show to talk about women veterans and homelessness, drug addiction. I mean, it was mostly problems, but mostly it was there to present solutions. And one of the solutions is that we got to help each other. So it was the best thing ever to see Kendra get that leg on television. And of course, this is the greatest day of my life. I've never given anyone a leg. You know what this means for the quality of her life? She talked about having to use crutches for 5 years. She couldn't hold hands with her daughter while she was walking. There was a bunch of stuff that I knew we would fix with this one little prosthetic. And I took out my phone, and I was just recording the whole thing behind the scenes. And the look on her face when that leg came out. And she just bawled. And I remember her grabbing Valerie, and Valerie telling, this is for you, this is for you. I'll never forget that moment. That's what we're supposed to be doing for each other. And why the VA let her walk without a leg, use crutches for 5 years, I'll never understand. But I'm glad that the women of Houston came together to make sure she got what she needed, and we took care of her. So, thank you. What's that?
No woman left behind.
That's right. We don't leave anyone behind. Man, woman, indifferent, we don't leave anyone behind. And that's the whole point, right? So later on, through the people at Women Veterans Day, I had met 97-year-old WAC veteran Dorothy Stroud. She was in Paris when the war ended. She talked about how the lights came back on in Paris. She worked in S1 or S2. She helped the guys get munitions for the Battle of the Bulge. She made sure they had the ammunition and the logistics and everything that they needed to make it happen. She had served in Korea. I think all in all, she had like 10 years of service, something crazy like that. She needed hearing aids. And so I'm like, what? You're not VA service connected? You're not? No. She had never registered for her benefits. She didn't even know what they were. No one had ever helped her with the paperwork. So I call up my friend Valerie. And I said, Valerie, Dorothy needs hearing aids. And she goes, don't worry about it, P. I got it all taken care of. And she called me back a few days later. She said, Beltone is going to give Dorothy hearing aids. So I had been in contact with her daughter because that's how I got in contact with Dorothy, was through her daughter. And Dorothy had an iPhone. Trust me, she's 97 years old. When I went to go pick her up to go get her hearing aids, she could not flip through the pictures fast enough to show me what was on her phone. She started talking and she would not, for a better term, shut up. I went on the bus with her. She told me about washing her hair in a helmet full of hot water. You know, she landed on Omaha Beach just 2 weeks after those men did. She talked about landing on the beach and how short it was. And she looked up on, the bunkers were all still up there. And she said, I looked up there and she says, I have no idea how these men did it. It was so short. The beach was so short. And she talked about making camp on that beach and where they took her to get a hot meal one time and how she had to wear boots everywhere. I've never heard these stories before. I'd never heard a woman tell these stories before. I didn't know women were on Omaha Beach ever. I didn't know that they climbed down cargo nets with backpacks and boots on, and I had no idea any of these things. I had a very elementary, I didn't even know what a WAC was for the longest time. I'm like, what in the world is a WAC? And then I finally educated myself, and I found out there were WACs, WAFs, waves, all kinds of things. And it wasn't until the 70s that we were actually considered really part of the armed forces. Before that, they had women first sergeants and women in charge of these WACs, these WAFs, these waves. And when they integrated everybody, a lot of women lost their leadership positions. There was so much that had to be told. I met Rhonda Dula through Texas Women's Veterans Day. She had her medical degree from UCLA. She joined the Air Force, and you know they made her be a nurse in Vietnam. It blows my mind. Her likeness was used on the face of the Women's Vietnam Nurses Memorial in Washington, D.C. She was the most humble character I think I've ever met. Just tremendous. And I learned so much from her about what equality means and what equity means, and some of the impossible emotional obstacles some of these women had to fight and endure, and how we're still fighting a lot of that even today. And so naturally, I'm kind of into video, and when I started collecting these experiences, they were all on my phone. I didn't take a big camera out. I think even after I started hanging out with Romaine, her main interview in the film is actually 2 years older than the things we were doing in the film. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm Romaine.
Yes. Romaine is here today. She's a Navy veteran, and she's become one of my closest friends and one of the catalysts in my own healing that I'm always going to be in Romaine's debt. Whew. So we got her the new hearing aids, and after I talked to Dorothy and heard her stories, I knew that this was my task. This was my task. I needed to be the platform for these women, for their voices to be heard. And I took it very seriously. So I put Dorothy's visit in with Kendra's. It was participating in the I Am Not Invisible campaign, which was a national photography campaign all across the nation. It was started in Oregon. Romaine and I were chosen from Houston to participate with the Texas I Am Not Invisible campaign. And we actually carpooled to Austin together from Houston. And the talks we had on the way, the conversations were deep and intelligent. And so I charged my phone up and dragged Romaine out of her hotel room. And I said, "This is what we're doing." And she goes, "So what? I just act normal, right?" And I said, "Uh-huh." And she goes, "All right, whatever that means." And we started. But these experiences, these events I was participating in were the beginning for the change in me. It was something I just couldn't explain. And even now, 3 or 4 years later, it's impossible to comprehend the life changes that would take place in all of us. Our hearts were getting ready to make changes and reveal some of the most vulnerable parts of us. And this was part of the healing process for many of us. And the discovery of being able to accept and be proud of our service was really in the balance. There was no script, no real production. It was just my experience connecting with these women while finding my own voice as a veteran. And it was after spending time in Oklahoma City with Kendra getting fitted for her prosthetic that I started putting the film together. So I dug through all the interviews I had taken years prior and got the stories together, and I started talking to people in the community about the possibility of a film. And I needed a name, something to call it, and it took me weeks. And what do you call this? And all I could think about was every woman I had spoken to in the interviews talked about how she felt invisible and that her service didn't matter, or her service was so long ago, surely it didn't mean anything to anybody. And so, just as a working title, I started calling it The Invisible Project. And that's exactly what it became, Invisible. I was about ready to finish the film. Rhonda and I were going to take an honor flight to see the memorial in Washington, D.C., and COVID happened. And I won't beat a dead horse. We all know about COVID. And the 2 weeks they promised turned into 2 years. But the film had to be wrapped up. And there were some things that didn't happen, and that really broke my heart. But at the same time, I needed to get the word out. I needed to go ahead and, no matter what it was, finish. Like I said, it was being in TV, it should have been easier for me to get distribution for the film. And I met so many roadblocks that it was almost depressing to me. Part of me, the shame kind of creeped in, and I'm like, oh, just forget it. Just keep it private on YouTube and don't show it to anybody. Just forget it. And one of my good friends convinced me to enter it in some film festivals, and I picked the ones that are obvious. The Veterans Film Festival in San Francisco's one, and then the GI Film Festival in San Diego, and I got phone calls. Just totally unexpected. And it was selected, nominated for awards, got honorable mentions, won a couple times, and it collected 7 laurels. 7. Like, not 6, not 8. 7. And after it won these awards, I finally had the opportunity to air it on my own station in Houston, and things really started to move then. Tomorrow we find out if it wins an Emmy Award. So, that seems crazy to me. But you know what? The awards, the recognition are not the real prize in any of this. Like, the people who trusted me enough to take their stories and put it out there for the world and everybody to see, these people are very special in my life. Kendra and I still visit. She's become a motivational speaker, and she's an entrepreneur in Georgia. Romaine, who's here today, is taking care of her family and still creating her own empire. I don't know how she does it. And she's also become a valuable friend and supporter and a kind voice of reason when I need that extra push. And Rhonda is everywhere in the veteran community. I don't know how she does it either. Everywhere I go, I see her. She is. And I even got to celebrate Dorothy's 100th birthday. So, but you never know who you're going to meet. Not on the street, not at work, not anywhere you go. And even at this moment, we're surrounded by incredible people with unbelievable stories and hearts of gold. And you never know about any of that until you ask. And that's what I'm asking today. Romaine and I were talking about it at breakfast this morning. You know, who are you without the things you do? Now, who am I without the things I do? I'm hope that I get to be a platform to help lift others up, regardless of everything else, every other label. I'm hoping that I can be the one other people can stand on when they need their voice to be heard. And so that's what I'm asking of you today. If you know a veteran, any veteran, but especially a woman, please ask about her service and genuinely listen to the story. And if she lets you, record it, even if it's on the phone. Because service matters. All service matters. And one day we'll be so pleased that we collected these things, because no one else is. It preserves our intent, our action, and our real conviction of the people in history who don't already have the luxury of telling their stories. So right down in my life, that's what I'm working on. I'm working on being intentional with thoughtfulness and authenticity. And what started off as an unintentional effort led to something very intentional. I'm here in North Carolina today talking to you about something I did in Texas. God has put very bright people in my life, and they're like lighthouses for me, beacons of perseverance, love, and dignity. And I know the same things would happen to anybody if they would only be curious about the people they meet. So that was the title, The Invisible Project. And little did I know the most remarkable transformation would come from those words. The person you don't see, the veteran behind the camera, is the invisible project. Just the opportunity to be here today shows how powerful something like this can be. My hope is that the film can create conversation, motivation to make real change in veterans' affairs, but also provide an outlet for women to share their stories, be heard and validated, not to be invisible. So I appreciate you being here with me today so I can share this part of my veteran story with you at this moment in time. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much.
Wow. Pacifica, I'm pretty sure I mispronounced your last name before. Pacifica J Sauer, and now we're going to have time for some questions for Pacifica and/or Romaine here, if she doesn't mind. We have a microphone over there that. Where's Patrick? Oh, right in the back there. Just raise your hand if you have a question. Well, in lieu of that awkward few minutes where no one ever volunteers a question, going to start, because people that know me, I like to ask questions. So actually, as just a slight cul-de-sac, so I hope Pacifica has impressed upon you the importance of preserving your history. So, certainly talk to each other, but consider if you're not part of the Women Veterans Historical Project, maybe just let me know or sign up on the list by the door there. Okay, so I can't imagine, how did you end up choosing the 4 women you did? I can't imagine there's not more. And then a question for you. Did you have, you're sharing your life story that's going to be on the internet and film. Did you have any hesitation, conversations with yourself, your friends, telling Pacifica she's crazy, go away, or not? Okay, so 2 questions.
How did I choose the women? Well, they were chosen for me. And I think it was divine intervention that these, like I said, it was a total accident. Valerie just called me out of the blue. I want to give up. It was everything that like you can't make it up. I didn't, when I go to interview people, normally when I pick people out, I talk to them on the phone, and if you can't speak to me on the phone, you're not going to do well on TV. So I kind of crossed your name out. But some people, when you get in front of them and you turn the camera on, they become different people too, and all of a sudden, if they could speak before, now they can't, or something weird happens. I don't know how I got so lucky, but I think what really made the difference was the connection I was able to make with these women before we sat down. If I had not been a veteran with the experience I had and been able to speak the language and look them in the face and tell them, you can trust me with the most vulnerable parts of your life, and it got hairy. We all want to sugarcoat things and talk about positive, but not all of this is positive. The problems, the issues the women have in the military are different from a man's. They're the same, but they're different. So we had to approach it in a different way. And I thought by telling these personal stories was the way to do it, because everyone can relate to personal things more than they can matter of fact. This happened, this happened, this happened. I wanted to bring humanity into it. But in all honesty, the women that I met, I did not choose. They kind of chose me, and they trusted me, and we rolled with it. I don't know what else to say about that. There was no conscious, you've got a great story, you need to be on the film. It wasn't like that. And there were some parts of some people's stories we couldn't even tell because of gag orders and things like this. I really don't know how I would have gotten these women to talk to me without being a veteran myself, in all honesty, and the respect and the dignity that came out of that. And they knew that I was not going to present them as weak or pitiful or people to feel sorry for. These are things they overcame in their lives, and they are stronger for it. They were built for it, and they trusted me with that. So, I can't think of a bigger honor, in all honesty, than to be tasked with the responsibility of these vulnerable stories and tell them with respect. Absolutely. And I think Romaine will probably say something similar. I remember I kept one part of her interview in my personal files, and it's called Keep Me. And she said, I never would have told you all this if we couldn't connect and you hadn't served how I served, and we were in the Navy on the same type of ship and we did the same type of jobs, She never would have told me what she told me without that. And it's one of the biggest honors in my life. I've never had anyone trust me like that before. And it made me realize what it means to be human, in all honesty. Like, these are real people with real feelings and real stories. And the awards are great, but this is not for awards. This is much bigger than that. The awards are just incidental. Did you Want to?
Can y'all hear me, or do I need to get up? Do I need to get up, or you can hear me? Can you hear me?
Patrick's going to...
Okay, perfect. Okay. Hi, my name is Romaine. I guess you heard that. So, interestingly enough, the way I got involved at all was, like she said about Women Veterans Day, was happening in Houston. And basically, I was working with a Women Veterans organization at the time called Catholic Charities. And I was tasked with, unexpectedly, tasked with coordinating the entire state. So I pretty much structured and set up how we would do Women Veterans Day, how we would roll it out. And I mean, it was amazing because, how did I get paid for this? How did this even happen? And so I create templates and designs, and I send it throughout the state so that everybody within each individual city knows how to put this together, okay? So when we were working on it, I happened to be exposed to Pacifica. Of course, it works with the television program. And, well, we need some videos, and we're going to have a big photo shoot, whole 9 hours. So I called her. So that's how we initially made contact. Is by doing one of our, when we come in, they had makeup done. I mean, if we ever get to go to Women Veterans Day online, you can see some of this. It's amazing. We had women post, their whole faces were decorated in camo, blue camo from Navy. There was a Marine camo, there was an Army camo, and their faces were completely covered. It was just amazing. Just the ideas that came up, and pretty much that was, my ideas. I was stunned that I could actually be creative in this way. But when we started talking, and again, we connected because she's a Navy veteran, and oh my God, and da-da-da-da-da. And next thing you know, she started talking about this project that she was working on. After getting the leg and this and that, and we just started talking. It wasn't, like she said, it was so organic. This wasn't like Romaine, I'm going to do this and I want you. It wasn't that. We were just kind of having our friendship and our relationship was developing, And then we start talking about our service, And then when you start talking about your service, any woman in you who's a veteran, who's talked to another veteran with their heart open, understands what I mean. When we start talking about our service, we get into the nitty-gritty of what my life was, what my life is as a result of having been there. Because none of us are the same as when we left home, when we go in the military and come back. So we're wives or this or that, but there's something else about us that we just a lot of times can't express. Because my story was so very personal, because mine dealt with, women who know this, mine dealt with military sexual trauma, so you know what that means if you're in the military. And that's all I'm going to say about it today. So when it comes down to what my story was, when we start getting into it, and she's like, you see how her posture is, her basic constitution is like, just humility, and she's just kind of looking at you like, I'm here for you. I really am here for you. You don't have to share if you don't want to, but it's important that you do. That's what she's easy, and that rope, she's kind of pulling you in. You're like, and so next thing you know, you're just telling her your life, you're like telling her business. I've never spoken about this in this way, you know what I mean? Because we get into the nitty-gritty of what this was. When do you actually tell somebody what you really feel? Everybody think about that for a minute. How do you actually get to tell somebody what you really feel? And it's okay, And so she finally, what was crazy, I did all the interviews, and like she said, we'd be going somewhere, and she said, I'm gonna put you on camera now. I ain't got no makeup. She just, here, drive my car, we drive. What do you mean drive? Because I need to frame it. It's just like all of a sudden, we're not planning it. You're just like, we're going awesome. What do you mean drive your truck? Get behind the wheel so I can get you driving. So she's creating as you go along, so to speak. And I'm like, okay, I guess, And so once we finish all that and the buzz is gone, I go home and I think. I said, wait a minute, because I know now I remember what I told her. And I'm like, so where's this going to go? You're going to be with this? So to your question, I was like, okay, first of all, I don't know about this. That's why she had to put it in a little key place. Because we had to talk about, people are going to find out things about me. They're going to find out areas of weakness in me. They're going to find out about insecurities. They're going to find out things that, because I gave it to her kind of thing. Tears and all, because tears is something that I hadn't experienced. I don't know, like we talked about, I was numb for about 20 years. I didn't feel nothing. I wasn't happy, wasn't sad, wasn't psyched, I wasn't anything. I just didn't feel anything because I had learned how to cope with my life a certain way. And the military teaches you how to compartmentalize. As a woman, naturally, we have these bags, this big bag that everything goes in. But when you're a military woman, you still have the big bag, but you have little compartments inside the bag. Okay? So feelings go here because there's no place for feelings in the military. You don't get the feeling, then you just get to work and do what you do. That's just what that is. And so you learn, when you're growing up in home, you're a girl. Everything is filtered through your emotion. But the military teaches you how to pull promotion over here so you get the mission completed, whatever that means. So okay, every military woman knows what I'm talking about, because we all had to do this in order to stay there, because those guys will eat you alive. Hello? Just over picking up that box over there. And why can't you pick it up? You know? So anyway, for she and I literally had to search my heart and soul, and I literally called her one day and I said, you know what, Pacifica, I think, because as she said, she started talking to other women and she would take me with her. So I would begin to hear their stories. And some of their stories, like this group of women veterans in the military, they were in Vietnam. And who even knew they were women on the ground in Vietnam? But they were involved in an unfortunate sex ring over there. They couldn't get out. Some of them, one of them killed themselves because she couldn't get out of it. But they sent her home in honors. You know? But that wasn't how she died. She died because she couldn't take what was going on with her. And so and so that story specifically stuck with me because it was, again, very personal, very difficult, just, you know, unthinkable, you know. And so for me, I said to her, you know what? There's some other women who need to come out. They need to know that it's okay. So I said, you know what? Let's just do what we have to do, because I feel like if I open up my life, it'll allow somebody else to get free. And so that was the choice. That's how I made the decision. Because, you know, my own personal mission is to be a catalyst for change for people. My personal mission is for a person. Anytime they encounter me, for their life to be better as a result of encountering me. And that's why when Veterans Day was such a big deal. That was why, you know, that's how I do with my family. That's how I live my life. And so that's kind of how I made the decision to go ahead and let her publish the story, because honey, you know what I mean? And I think she still didn't give. She didn't put all of every single thing there, but she put enough there that you understand what was going on. And that was a lot for me. So that took some. She said I was brave. I'm like, girl, I don't know. I just want somebody to be free. You know, I want you to be able to know that you don't have to live underneath your experiences. That you can take the reins of your life and overcome this thing, and then it becomes a part of you, so that you can go out and change someone else's life.
Your vulnerability, there's, men and women that aren't going to feel as alone because you were, strong, brave enough to tell your story. And, it was important that you got it down and shared it with people. Anyone else have a question, comment over here?
Good afternoon. This is not a question, but it's a comment to Pacifica and Romaine, and to let everybody in here know how honored I am to be here in this room. I felt very blessed and very lucky to be a member of the United States Armed Forces. It started because I graduated from the School of Nursing here at UNCG, and I'm now a retired Air Force veteran. And and I am married to a man who spent 39 years, spent his entire adult life in the Air Force. And when we go out together frequently, he's got his USAF retired. Y'all know what I'm getting ready to say, don't you? And I have my USAF retired cap on. People, and it is well deserved, people will say, "Sir, thank you for your service." And I'm invisible, right? Standing right there next to him. And a lot of times because he really does believe in what women have been in the military and what we literally bring to the fight, he will say, "Well, my wife is also retired military." And I think a lot of people, were their consciousness raised, would say, "Ma'am, thank you." It's just something they don't think about. So I just wanted to say thank you and all of you who are helping people understand that we've been there and we're going to be there and we do a hell of a good job. So I just want to say thank you.
Hi. My name is Jonica Trent. I am actually the historian for American Legion Post 540, which is North Carolina's only all-female American Legion. And I know what being invisible is like. I served 8 years in the Army military police. And yeah, 2 tours in Germany. Exactly. And so what I wanted to say is I feel like I was set up by females. And so I avoided females in the military, for most of my career. When I got out, and I'm looking at, she approached me with American Legion Post 540, this and this, and I'm like, what? We're all female. What? How does all females get along? So I was like, I'm very interested. I joined American Legion Post 540. I felt like I was at home, like you're saying. Yes. I felt like I was at home. These women were loving, kind. No fighting, arguing, no none of that. All you get is lifted up. It encouraged me to go and fight for my rights and fight for my, the things that I needed. And I am so thankful for them. I am so thankful for now being a veteran, being in the military myself. So it is very important to get with some female military veteran organization. It is very important, ladies, because I was just like she was saying, I just put that behind me, and I was not going to mention I was in the military. I didn't look like I was in the military, and I wasn't going to say anything. So now, when you go somewhere and 540 is in the house, and those guys, when they see us coming, they will release a whole table for us to sit. Wow. There's 540, 540 is here. And that's what we do. We started making a presence because we wanted them to know that we were female veterans and we are real.
Hi. First of all, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And I'm talking about your service of spreading stories.
Absolutely.
We all have a story. This is more of a logistical question about the film. Is it available distribution, like on the CD at Redbox or?
Well, you know what?
Netflix or
It's on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is my name. After I was done with the film circuits, I didn't want to fool with it, to make it a secret. I didn't want to keep it to myself anymore. So it's totally public. I've also got a website. It's called theinvisibleprojectfilm.com, where you can see everybody's stories unedited. So even what I didn't include in the film, I'm sorry, will be is on the website. And actually, I've got all my women veterans just about on a 3 or 4 hour timeline, so you can listen to everybody's story through the website. But absolutely, it's all on my YouTube channel. It's on Vimeo. It's on the website. Absolutely. So anybody can access it at this time.
There might be meetup groups or women's veteran groups that would like to have a show here.
I surely hope so. I surely hope so.
Maybe American Legion 540.
Exactly.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Trying to work with veterans. Sisters to 540. Is this a cautionary tale that we should be showing young women before they join the military, as well as a survivor tale that we should be showing women veterans they get out that you're not alone? Should this be mandatory across the board in any way that women veterans can be affected?
That's a good question, because I think it's all of those things. I think anytime you make a decision in your life, you should think about the cautionary things and the risk that's involved. But sometimes you have things you have to do in your life, and risk be damned. You have to do these things to become the person you're meant to be. And if you're built for that and you hear the calling, I think you should go, man or woman. I think what women need to realize when they join the military is that it is a culture. And you do need to have boundaries. Like you can't, like anything, you shouldn't go into anything naively blind to what you're really getting into. It is a very serious organization. What we do is serious. It's life and death every day. You need to be competent. You need to know what you're doing. You need to be confident in yourself and your abilities. All those things are not weak characteristics. And so in that way, I think it's a cautionary tale. A lot of people ask me, like, what is the solution to this? And I think a lot of it is just to stop being invisible. If you are a woman veteran, go get service connected and get the benefits you earned and deserve. And tell your story. Dorothy Stroud, 97 years old, she told me stories her daughter hadn't even heard. So, I mean, even if you think you know, chances are that you don't. And I think that part of the solution is telling people truth. I mean, speaking truth and being truth and living authentically in your life and claiming all of your labels is important. You know, right now we're fixing problems with money, and that's not really fixing anything. Like, if we're really going to accept all the contributions that are required in the military, we have to make accommodations for all people too. And I think that's something we need to work on, obviously. So I think it's all of those things. It's cautionary. It's pushing for culture change, and it's what I really want is to shine light where darkness is, and that's what we all should be doing. Because when you shine a light where darkness is, it's kind of hard to ignore what's there anymore. So a lot of the history has been painted over. A lot of people have been left out, and a lot of the stories that have been told are stories of convenience and legacy because of last names people have, or who they're related to, or who they know, and a lot of people get looked over, especially the contributions of women. The fact about the matter is those men would have never been able to do what they did without the contributions of women, and it took everybody's everything to win against the evil we fought against. So, I mean, the sooner we can make people realize that and understand that what we did was a sacrifice, and what it took from your mind and your body, that was a personal contribution to a greater good in the world. And when we make people realize that, I think that we'll actually be getting somewhere.
Okay, the only thing I want just to add, because like she just mentioned about taking to different veteran organizations. Interestingly enough, when I was in college, I found out that people are interested in the mystery of being in service. So a lot of times, don't limit it to just veteran organizations. If you're been part of a church, see if your church can show it to them. If you're part of an organization or anywhere, if you're in a university, I mean, some of the college students, show this to people just in general, just to show them what this experience is like. Just to know, because it's just like watching a great movie. You know, some of these stories are quite incredible, you know, and a lot of times it's very intriguing to think about from a different lens. So don't limit it just to a veteran organization.
Hello, I'm Deborah Barksdale. I'm the Dean of the School of Nursing, and I watched your film this morning. I kind of feel like I'm in the presence of celebrities. I just want to touch you. I do want you to know that, so today I sent out a memo to all my faculty, staff, and students, and I linked the video in it. And I also included information on the Have You Ever Served initiative. I don't know if you've heard of that. Mm-hmm. But it's really about after you should, as healthcare providers, we should be asking the question, have you ever served? So you wouldn't have been able to hide from me for all this time.
Well, I never saw a doctor. I think I saw a doctor for the first time in 20 years, like 6 months ago. So you might have missed me.
The Have You Ever Served initiative and the American Academy of Nursing and others are involved. It's after you ask the question, and it has guides for what you should do, what some of the issues are, what health conditions, what questions you should ask. So I just really want you to know that you have already made an impact in North Carolina, even greater than this room. So thank you.
Thank you. Wow. That's a tremendous compliment. Thank you.
Any final questions or comments? I want to allow people to get out of here. Okay. All right. Yes. Okay.
I have a quick comment. I'll be quick. I just want to say, my name is Audra. I'm in the Navy. And I just want to say thank you for your project because her story really affected me. And thank you for sharing this because a lot of us don't speak. Like, I'm still in the reserves, and sometimes when I'm in uniform, I get really shy and embarrassed when people say thank you for your service because I feel like I haven't done enough. And I know we have, as women, I know we have, but it's like, I just don't want people to see me sometimes in uniform. I'm not gonna lie, because it feels like it's like the men should get the credit, and it still feels like that in 2022. You know, when our World War II sisters stood up, you know, they paved the way for us, but they didn't get recognized, and we get recognized now, and I still feel that way. So I thank you for what you've done, because I'm hoping that this opens everyone's eyes to see that we are somebody, you know, we are, you know, serving for our country. We're not invisible, you know. And so I just want to thank you. And then my question is, do you have a follow-on project to the Visible Project?
I'm continuously taking interviews and stories from women veterans. Right now I'm working with a nurse who works with PTSD patients and burn patients, amputees. She works with mirrors, and she helps the survivors of these horrible accidents accept their new self, the new look, their new scars, everything, missing limbs. And that's what I'm working on now. I'm just trying to bring a little bit more awareness into some of these very complicated issues. A lot of these things aren't as simple as they look on the surface, and there are real people behind these things, and I appreciate you coming forward and talking about how hard it is, but I want to remind you, you're built for this, and we've got a room full of, this is tremendous support. I mean, and like I said, I think we all need to be here to help lift each other up instead of dragging each other down, and that's what we need to concentrate on. Your service matters, my service matters, our service matters.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's a great way to
end the share. Please, feel free to hang out. I want you to get back home safely, so, check the weather. There are golf carts that can take you back to the parking garage. If you haven't gotten a parking pass, you can get one out front. Thank you so much, and I will see you next year.
Very nice. Did I do okay? Did I make sense?
Oh, my God.
Okay.
Yes.
That was great.
Thank you,
what
Brenda.
she said. Yeah, no, it was amazing.
Thank
Very
you.
powerful.
I appreciate it.
Touched my heart. And I'm not in military.
Oh,
My niece is, so.
thank you, Brenda. I appreciate that.
Yeah.